In this video, we will take a look at the house with the wrap-around porch, and I will provide you with a few details and things to consider if you're going to be building a wrap-around porch or even a home like this one here. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of the openings, starting with the door coming out of the living room into the backyard. And the master bathroom door. This would be a door coming out of the master bedroom bathroom area. Next up, let's go ahead and head over to the laundry area. And we're going to have a wash machine and a dryer in this room here, along with a section of the house that will go all the way through from the front porch to the back porch. And I believe the original design had a garage over here somewhere. And if that's something you're interested in, let us know, and then I will go ahead and draw the garage for this particular project. And let's not forget, wherever you have lumber in contact with the concrete, that it might need to be treated also. And of course, our front door. And our front door will have a 2.5-inch drop down here, along with all of the other doors that will have access to the wraparound porch, so that we will have a 1-inch step down after we install our 1.5-inch thick decking. And don't forget to check with your local building codes, because this step down might need to be even shorter. Next up, let's go ahead and head over to the footing. And I'm not going to provide you with information for every single footing. Let's just go ahead and go over one of them, where we have a heavy-duty post-base connector going into the concrete. And even though I don't have any rebar in this example, you can always install rebar in your concrete footings to make them a little stronger. And I also like to hold the post base connectors just a little bit off of the concrete, maybe the thickness of this particular part of the connector, to provide me with a little more separation between the wood and the concrete. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the connection for the ledger. And in our example here, we are using treated lumber with anchor bolts. And our anchor bolts have square washers on them. You might not need them. You might be able to get away with using round washers, or even different types of connectors. And of course, the hangers for the deck joist. And in this example here, we have 2x6 that are going to connect to a 4x8. And we are using 2x8 for our ledger. Let's go ahead and swing around, get another view here. And in this example, we are using 1/2-inch diameter anchor bolts and spacing them about 32 inches on center. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the post to beam connectors, and you can use a variety of different methods to make this structural connection. However, the most common one is going to be one that looks like this one here. And of course, this one here can get in the way of the joist hangers, but it's not going to be a big deal most of the time, because the hanger can simply go over the connector. And if you need to, you can always drill holes through any of the hardware if necessary to drive a nail into it. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the corner, where we are going to use a couple of different straps. A corner strap here, we're going to wrap it around to connect the two beams together. And of course, I have a smaller strap and a larger strap to provide you with two more examples. However, the larger strap is going to be better. Get a nice connection from the bottom post and the beam to the upper post. And don't forget that these are only suggested methods of assembly. Your contractor or engineer might have another method. And I don't see any reason for installing any hardware in here because of the 45-degree angle and the strap going around the outside. However, the post might need a little more structural support to prevent it from moving. So one method there. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one where we have a shorter strap going over a post to beam connector here. And we could always add another strap to the inside to make a nice connection there. along with this method here, where there might be a hanger and a joist a little too close to make some of the other connections work. And since we do have a beam on each side with a break in the center here, we will probably need to add a strap to connect these two beams together, and of course another strap here to connect the posts to the two beams and then to the other post. So another method there. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more method here where we are going to use a long strap and a couple of framing anchors here. And of course these framing anchors can be installed at the bottom also to connect this post to the beam in the same way we're connecting this post to this beam here. And of course another strap, a smaller strap. And for those of you who do not want to see any building hardware, after you have installed the decking and maybe some fascia on the outside of the deck to cover the straps that are going to be on the other side, then you should take this into consideration when selecting your post to beam connecting hardware. And even if I installed a board on the outside here, like some form of deck fascia board, you'd still be able to see this right here and quite possibly the bottom of the strap. And if you don't want to see that, again, look for another type of building hardware. And for the most part, we can use these connections below and the connections that I have already showed you to connect the beams to the post also. And of course, we could put the straps on top of the beams, or even move this strap up a little higher if we wanted to use a little longer strap, or even install two straps on one side, or one strap on one side, one strap on the other side. And again, we could use the same methods below in the same way that we use the post to beam connector. And I would imagine most engineers are going to call out for some type of hardware like this because it's what they're most familiar with. However, I think some of these strap connections like we have below might provide us with a stronger structural connection. However, with that said, I need to point out I am not an engineer, so would only be speculating on that thought. And what I did here, instead of just kind of going 8 foot on center with the posts, was to equally space them according to the length of each side so that I don't end up with one of these sections that is ridiculously large or small, or even just have a 2 foot variation. For example, have an 8 foot spacing, 8 foot spacing, 8 foot spacing, and then a 2 foot spacing or a 4 foot spacing. And again, I will leave it up to you whether or not that makes sense. And of course, that will be one of those things that you will need to consider when figuring out the design of your deck. And our joists are spaced 16 inches on center. If you are going to install different types of decking boards, you might need to space them a little closer, or you even might be allowed to space them farther apart. And we will need to use a special hanger where the joist connects to the 45-degree angle ledger here. And we will end the video by taking a tour around the deck framing here. And depending upon the design, I didn't run the ledger all the way through, because it often doesn't look nice to have the ledger run through and then look at this on the outside. It looks a lot better to have something like this. And again, that's only if that's going to work for your design. And of course, another helpful tip when building decks around angled perimeter walls and building foundations might be to extend the length of the edge of one of the ledgers so that you could get better nailing for a hanger. So if you could just imagine this line here coming out, it would come maybe over to here, which would make it a little more difficult to install this type of hanger. And you could even run the ledger all the way over to the other joist here if this needed to come over even further to create a better connection in an area where you're not going to be able to make a nice connection. And as always, if you have any questions about this particular project or even the wraparound deck, or if there is something you need a little more information on, then feel free to leave that in the comment area and I will answer the questions as soon as I can. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button to let us know that you want to see more of these videos.